All right, let's talk about something that can absolutely make or break a global product launch. Packaging compliance. It's a world just packed with hidden rules and really costly mistakes. But don't worry, we're going to break it all down into a clear, actionable plan. Okay, let's just dive right in.
And let's start with a perfect, real-world example of a high-stakes pitfall. So imagine this, your product is all set to ship to the US. It's got the English text, but hey, you also added some helpful Spanish phrases. Sounds good, right? Well, here's the problem. For regulated stuff like drugs or medical devices, US law says if you use any foreign language, you have to mirror or duplicate all the required information in that language. Missing this one detail can get your entire shipment refused at the border. We're talking massive delays.
And that really gets to the core of the challenge. You might have one amazing product, but trying to launch it in, say, a dozen different markets means you're navigating 100 of these little hidden rules. A single artwork's mistake, a wrong word, a font that's a tiny bit too small, the wrong symbol, it can bring a multi-million-dollar product launch to a grinding halt. It's a total minefield.
So, let's tackle the first big challenge, what I call the language and legibility trap. And here's the most important thing to get your head around. The words on your package, they're not just marketing copy. They're not just for style. In the eyes of the law, every single word is a regulated component. And if you get them wrong, there are serious consequences.
This slide just captures the headache perfectly. Look at the conflicting demands on global brands. So, in the EU, the food rule is pretty straightforward. You got to use the official language of the country where you're selling. Simple enough. But, like we just talked about, the US mirroring rule creates a completely different and frankly much bigger set of requirements, often for the very same artwork file.
Let's get even more specific. Ever heard of X height? Now, it might sound like some super technical designer jargon, but in the EU, it's literally the law. Regulators use the physical height of a lowercase x in whatever font you choose to decide if your mandatory text is legally big enough to read. It's a precise, totally non-negotiable measurement.
And that measurement is just 1.2 millimeters. That is tiny. But this one little number can dictate your entire package design. It affects how much text you can even fit, your layout, your whole branding. If your X height is 1.1 millimeters, guess what? Your package is illegal. It is that black and white.
Okay, so that's the visible stuff, the text. But beyond that, there's this whole invisible world of data that has to be managed. This is where we get into what I call the alphabet soup of barcodes, identifiers, and data standards that, if you're not careful, can just become total chaos.
So let me just ask you this. Is your product data out of control? Do you have one set of product info for your website, another for your retailers, and maybe a third for your regulatory filings? This kind of fragmentation, this copy drift, is a huge source of errors and just incredible inefficiency.
So how do we fix this chaos? Well, the very first step is to establish a shared language. And that's exactly where the GS1 Global Data Model, or GDM, comes in. You can think of it as a universal dictionary for all product data. It defines all the key things, like brand name, net weight, ingredients, in a standardized way so that everyone, everywhere, is speaking the same language.
Now, once you have that standard language, that universal dictionary, you need a way to share it reliably. That's the job of the GDSN, the Global Data Synchronization Network. It's basically a secure network that lets brands and their retail partners automatically sync up their product data, making sure everyone is working from the same single source of truth. No more manual updates, no more copy and paste errors.
And this brings us to the really exciting part, the GS1 Digital Link. This is the technology that's upgrading the humble barcode into a smart, web-enabled gateway. It means that just one QR code on a package can link to different information depending on who scans it. A consumer might get a recipe, while a retailer could get stock information, all from the same code.
And this table shows that evolution perfectly. The old school barcode, it just holds a simple product number. That's it. But the future-ready 2D code, the one powered by Digital Link, it can hold a huge amount of dynamic data and connect directly with the consumer. And listen, the global retail industry has set a target. They're calling it the 2027 Sunrise, to be able to scan these new codes at checkout. So this change, it's coming fast.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problems, right?
We've got language chaos and data chaos. Now let's talk about the solution. It's all about building a systematic compliance engine that helps you move from all that chaos to being in complete control.
So the core of this engine, it's a concept from quality management called configuration management, specifically the standard ISO 1007. I know it sounds technical, but the idea is actually really simple. Treat every single piece of your artwork as a controlled component. A legal warning, a nutrition panel, a barcode, each one gets a unique ID, a version history, and a formal approval process. This is how you create an airtight audit trail.
So how do you actually put this into practice? You just have to follow 4 simple rules. First, control starts at the very beginning, at the brief, where you absolutely must lock in your final language. From there, you componentize those artwork elements, you break them down for better control. This then allows you to centralize all your data into a single source of truth. And finally, you always validate your data carriers, like barcodes, against the official specs.
Now let's look ahead for a second, because the future of packaging compliance is, without a doubt, digital. There are 2 huge shifts on the horizon that you need to know about. The EU's Digital Product Passport and that 2027 sunrise for 2D barcodes that we mentioned.
And this is not some far-off, distant future thing. It's happening right now. The main regulation that enables the Digital Product Passport, or DPP, is already in effect as of July 2024. By April 2025, we're going to see the first detailed rules. And then in 2027, you've got that big global push for 2D barcodes at checkout. These deadlines, they're concrete, and believe me, they are coming up fast.
So how in the world do you prepare for the DPP? Well, it starts with data. You'll need to start thinking now about capturing sustainability information, and you have to make sure that documents that back up your claims are digitally discoverable. It also means you need a real technology strategy for those smart QR codes and the GS1 digital link. And finally, you have to keep an eye out for local variations, like the Tremont logo in France, which are already demanding this kind of digital-first approach.
Phew! We have covered a lot of ground, from tiny little text rules all the way to massive digital shifts. So let's bring it all home with a clear, super simple action plan. 3 concrete steps that you can start working on today.
Here it is. It's this simple. First, to solve the language problem, you've got to build libraries of pre-approved, regulated text for each and every market. Second, to solve the systems problem, implement that ISO 1007 configuration management to get control over every single artwork component. And third, to get ready for the future, create a formal migration plan to get your packaging and your systems ready for 2D barcodes. Which leaves us with one final, and I think critical question to think about. With all these changes that are happening right now, is your packaging truly ready for what's coming tomorrow, or is it maybe already on its way to becoming obsolete? Thanks for watching.